G'day, legends. Welcome to the Pot Noodle. I'm your host, Jared. Joining me tonight is Shane. How you going, Shane?
Good, mate. Two thumbs up. I'm in a really, really good mood. Obviously, sport-filled weekends once again, but I won't go into too much detail because it's not a basketball pod. But the Phoenix got up in their semi-final game too, so we're going to a deciding game to get into the grand final series, and I can't wait.
I was going to ask you how the Phoenix go. I couldn't find the result anywhere. So good. Now I know. So could be an interesting one. Oh, look at this. Smell the gloves all over it. G'day, John Cena heel turners. Yeah, let's just go kick Cody in the dick. Gotta love it.
It's reminiscent of all those years ago with Hulk Hogan and his heel turn.
Yo, NWO. Yep.
That's right.
Unbelievable. So, thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate you all as usual. If you haven't done so, all our social media channels are down the bottom. Blue Sky's not down there, but it's the same as the X one. So at Celtic Down, you can find us on there. Give us a like, give us a follow. Appreciate your support growing them. CelticDownUnder.com. It's our website. It has merch on it, so t-shirts, drink bottles, hoodies, all available on there. Eventually, that's going to get updated. I want to put the flags on there. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. So when I get smart enough to figure it out, I'll let you all know on the pod as well. But until then, check it out. If you're after, a t-shirt or a hoodie or anything, support the podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you. So Shane, we're back to one game a week now for the next few weeks. It's going to be interesting. So, yeah, what are you doing with all your spare time?
Wow, I've watched and follow so much sport that the spare time just basically funnels into basketball and football and everything else really. So I mean, you would logically think I would actually get a bit more sleep, but it actually isn't panning out that way.
Doesn't work like that. Yeah, for me, it's kind of gone from, all right, one Celtic game a week, but the NRL season's starting, so the Storm's back playing as of this weekend coming up. So into the footy season over here as well. So looking forward to it. And Dan, if you're tuning in, your team sucks. Go the Storm. Had to say it. So, yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll get into the main reason everyone's here. Celtic 5, St Mirren 2. Interesting game. I can never remember the name of the stadium. It's not Love Street, but I'll call it New Love Street. It's the easiest way to sum it up because I can never remember. It was Samisa at one point. It was
That's it.
New St
That's it now,
Mirren,
isn't it? I
whatever.
think.
I have no idea. I'm actually
Yangster.
trying to see what it's called. Doesn't actually tell me until let's click on that. No, that didn't help. Bloody technology. So yeah, it's a bit of a doesn't matter. It was an away game. Thing I found interesting before we even get into the lineup, Shane. Pretty much every season for the last God knows how long has been Celtic plays St Mirren. We have to wear an away kit over at their place. We wore those grey tops that I hated the first time we wore them, but then the second time we wore them, a magic moment happened and we had to have that top. Before that, it's just we always go to St Mirren and we're just wearing our away uniform. So it was kind of odd to see us out there wearing our home uniforms, but I actually liked it because they're black and white, but they wear black shorts. When we wore the grey, it was grey with black shorts. It didn't make any sense. So the fact that we're out there in green and white hoops, white shorts, they're in black and white stripes, black shorts, makes sense. It was like a contrast. So to me, I loved seeing it. It is great to see the hoops being worn as much as possible. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, it was refreshing, and it harked back to a previous era where I don't think there was such a prominence on having different kits, so that the teams were stood out on the telecast or so forth. It was very much about just having the traditional kits, and where there was a sort of direct clash where it was impossible to navigate past, then you'd wear an alternate strip. So yeah, I really loved it, and I didn't find it very difficult to tell the teams apart. I didn't. Watching it on telecast on pretty rough bandwidth at the time, to be honest with you, I could still clearly make out who was who. And yeah, it just reminded me of an era gone by where really, unless it was a direct one-on-one clash where you were wearing exactly the same kit, the same stripes, the same horizontal stripes even, that you probably wouldn't wear an alternate kit.
Yeah, so for me, I think it makes sense. Like I grew up playing basketball, right? And the thing for us is it's always light and dark, you need to have a contrast. So, like, say if your uniform was red, if you're playing against a team that wore blue, you both wore your home top, your home uniforms. You didn't have to go like that. It was if there was a clash. So, say if you were red and you're playing against a team wearing orange, then whoever the home team is got to wear theirs, and the away had to wear their alternate uniforms. So that's how I grew up. So for me, looking at it, I'm I'm loving the fact that it's kind of seemed like whenever we play away, is it going to be the black top? Is it going to be the yellow top? I half expected us to wear the yellow top in this game because it can't go all black if they got black shorts and everything. So I thought that's the kit we'd wear. And I smelled the gloves saying, "Don't Adidas force us to play in the away strips for a certain amount of games a season." Wouldn't surprise me if contractually we have to. And the thing that those extra Champions League games have probably come in handy for that reason, that now we can free up a few games in the league. It's probably something to do with it, smell the glove. So, yeah, I appreciate that. But, it's just great to see. Like, I'm a bit of a traditionalist.
I do wonder if I was surprised when I turned on the telecast and saw us in our home kit, and I expected the yellow kit as well, and I just wonder whether it was kind of the dark shorts competing with their dark shorts that made that too much of a proposition compared to having just the hoops on their stripes kind of situation, but them having the darker shorts and us having the white shorts. Maybe they deemed that a bit easier to navigate around. But just from a little bit of an Australian perspective, since we're an Australian-based pod, so we've got the AFL over here, and they have a notoriously terrible jumper clash policy where basically even the smallest of clashes in color, even tone of color, not even direct color, would see you having to wear a different strip, and it's actually quite over the top. And it's nice to see that isn't kind of, I guess, becoming apparent in everywhere else, because the AFL have it completely wrong here.
For those over in, not in Australia, then, I'll just say that to make it a bit easier. AFL's rules are home team has to wear dark shorts with their top. Away team wears white shorts, and then whatever away top they've got. So it's ridiculous. So if you're a club like Celtic, who our home kit is white shorts, would we have to wear green in the AFL system? It's ridiculous, right? So yeah. Anyway, different sports, different. You know, we'll figure it out. But yeah, I just thought it was a nice change, basically. So seeing that, so starting lineup was wasn't really any major changes or anything out of the ordinary there. So it was Casper in goals, Schlupp and Johnson at fullback, Team America in the centre backs, and then middle of the park, McGregor, Engels, Hatade. Up front, Ida, Kun, and Mader on the wings. So yeah, I just thought going into that, it was one of those games where it. I thought it was pretty much one of our strongest sort of lineups we could have done. I agree with Ida starting, particularly against them, to wear him down a bit. I half expected Kun to get a rest because of how much he's looked really leggy the last few weeks. So yeah, I thought probably Jota would play on the right, and Mader would go on the left, Ida through the middle. So it didn't really surprise me with where Mader and Ida were. But yeah, I was shocked to see Kun get out there. He's looked really leggy. What was your thoughts, Shane, with the lineup?
Well, similar to yourself, I thought it was a pretty strong lineup, and it wouldn't surprise me if we continue to roll out a bit of a strong lineup for the rest of the season now that we're out of Europe with some minor tweaks. I don't think we're going to see a lot of sort of squad rotation anymore now that those games go back to a more manageable pace. So, yes, strong lineup. Yeah, look, a little bit surprised with Ida coming back in. I think the only change between I was just having a look before between this game and the Aberdeen game midweek was that Ida came in and led the line, and pre against Aberdeen we had Maeda leading the line. So um, I I wasn't surprised by it, but considering how potent we are when Maeda's actually the number 9 at the moment, I was a little bit surprised. So maybe Brendan, was just trying to prepare for how he would expect St Mirren to play. Maybe he really wants to sort of give Ida as much opportunity as possible to get out of what I think is a little bit of a form slump at the moment as well, particularly in comparison to Dyson. So yeah, not exactly an a surprising lineup, but yes, compared to how we've been playing with Maeda leading the line, a little surprised to see Ida up top.
One for the stat heads out there, like Mahesh, if you're tuning in, let us know. But I would love to know across Ida's, a year and a bit at the club, how many of his goals have come after the 60th minute mark in games. The reason for that is he got subbed off in the 64th minute. And there's a couple of comments here saying, where is it? Heavy vibes. I would have subbed Rio with Big Adam at half time. Glad he stayed on. And then Smell the Glove saying Rio got better as the game went on. Andrew is saying Ida is our main striker. And the thing for me is, you look at when Kyogo left and Ida was starting as the main striker. Other than the Aston Villa game where he had 2 goals in the 30-minute mark, right? So 32, 34 minutes or whatever it was, right? The majority of his goals off the top of my head have come after the 60-minute mark. And you would think whether he's come on as a sub at the 60, 65th minute and then scored, or in that period of time where he was the main man before, while Jota was getting his fitness up and everything, and before Dazen moved into the striker role, Ida was in the middle there, and he was scoring in the 70th minute, in the 65th minute, in the 80th minute. He was getting those. So I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to play and have him in the lineup. Because realistically, Shane, I look at it and go, Ida is our main striker. Dazen is a striker. Liam's been saying it for years, but he's been playing on the left for that long that he gives us something different. But at the same time, if Ida's an actual striker, do we keep him on the bench and play him as a super sub for that last 30 minutes when the centre-backs are starting to be worn down from Dazen buzzing around and driving them insane? Or do we start Ida in the middle and just let him run out 90 minutes?
I wouldn't mind seeing him actually run out the 90. I think that would be refreshing, and I think that would give him a little bit of a confidence boost as well. But I think there's another aspect to this as well, and I don't think the way we've been playing has been conducive to the kind of role that Ida plays and the type of striker that he is. And I thought in the first half in particular, we really struggled to actually create anything that he would benefit from and actually get involved in my opinion. The way we played in the second half was much more in line with the sort of the pace up top and Maeda getting in behind and the wingers getting in behind the fullbacks. Whereas first half we couldn't generate anything for Ida. He couldn't really drop in. The midfield was stacked. So it also comes back to how is the team playing? What are we actually facing? How are we combating our opponents? To whether Ida's going to have an impact as well. And I thought on the weekend, he was isolated, but it wasn't so much a fault of his own or a lack of work rate. I just think it was just the way the game was panning out.
You're going to say something, Shane. This is me being devil's advocate because I agree with what you're saying. But listening to other podcasts and seeing the comments on other shows and stuff like that, people saying that it's not Ida, it's the service he's getting, or it's not Kyogo, it's the service he wasn't getting before he left. People are saying that is a weak way to view it. And I agree, he's not getting the service at the moment, but how can Dazen come in, and I know he's a bit faster, but how is it that we play one-touch football when Dazen's the striker, but when Ida's a striker, we take 2 or 3 touches before looking for the pass? What's the change there? Because for me, I'm looking at it going, I don't think it's the service. I don't think it's the style of play. I think it's just we play slower when Ida's on.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair argument as well. And it's hard to put my finger completely on it, but there's a notable shift between first and second half performance, and it was stark in this game, as we've seen in previous games gone by. But this one in particular was so noticeable. And maybe it is a case that we play too slow. Maybe we're trying to get the ball out wide and look for the cross in. Maybe Kun's cutting inside, waiting for an option instead of that sort of one-touch passing from the midfield. Maybe he's not working hard enough to get involved, to drop deep and lay it off and then run back into the box kind of thing. But for me, on the weekend, I just felt that the way we were playing, it was much more of a that was responsible as opposed to Eder himself. So I thought it was more pronounced in that first half performance as opposed to Eder himself necessarily not getting involved.
Yep. So I'll bring up some comments and then we'll get into the game a little bit. So Martin Weir's saying Eder came in same as Engels with no preseason with Brendan Rodgers. Give him a preseason and let's see. 100% Martin. Andrew Galea is saying with the league in the bag, we can build up Eder. Love that. And then Andrew's also saying there will be a queue for Mater in the summer. Get Eder to work into some form. Craigie White is saying, yeah, 10 goals in last two games and Eder wasn't any of them. And Smell the Glass saying, wish we could have bottled the Eder from that last 5-0 win at Killy at the end of last season. Heavy Vibes is saying sometimes Eder looks bored. I have a response to that. Sometimes I look bored when, there's something, things aren't going to plan. So sometimes we all look a bit bored at our jobs. Let's be honest. If he's making runs and the ball's not coming, and because they're thinking, oh, we have to go wide, we have to put crosses in, just because he's 6'3" or whatever, or 6'4", and I think, oh, we have to go wide and put crosses in for him. No, you don't. Play the ball in behind. Remember late last season, he was making those runs. He's got to turn a pace. He's a big bastard, but he's got to turn a pace. So we can still make the same sort of passes that we would for Dazen, but let's just not put it 20 metres in front of him. Let's put it 15 in front.
And that might be a directive from Brendan, because that was so noticeable between first and second half, is that maybe with Eder on the field, Brendan's encouraging more of a game style that actually has him in the box and actually gets the ball into the box instead, whipping the balls in from deep or getting to the byline and cutting it back instead of actually playing the ball first time like we were seeing from McCowan and Hatate when Maeda was the number 9. So who knows? It might actually just be what Brendan's trying to develop as well.
And then, Craigie White saying, listen, Giakoumakis didn't have any problems stepping up when he came on for Kyogo.
Fair. Very fair.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say something, though. Different manager, different style of play. So I understand what you're saying, Craigie, and 100% agree with what you're saying in that season, yeah. But, yeah, Andrew's saying it here. Maeda anticipates the next action better than most.
I think being that physical number 9 too, particularly if you're the only one leading the line, can actually be the most thankless job in football at times. And they were playing with centre halves attached to him. They were physical. I'm not saying that he needs to get used to that. That's football, right? But, you were sort of commenting before about sometimes how he looks bored. Maybe that's just the frustration, coming through of constantly working his socks off to get into good areas and not getting the ball.
As Andrew's saying here, every opposition is at their strongest in the first half. And when he's coming on in the first half and he's got a centre half attached to him the whole time, if they're not kicking lumps out of him, they're bumping him, pushing him, putting him into positions he doesn't want to be in. And then if he tries to get back to where he wants to, it's tough. It's going to be a bit of a doozy for him. But John Clements is saying now we only have one game a week. Brendan can now spend more time working with the team, and I think we will start seeing Eder improve. 100%. So that's the one positive with where we're at now. But yeah, I think we'll put the Eder talk to the side there, Shane, and we'll actually just talk about the game. So for me, the first half was, I think, first 15 minutes or so, we seemed okay. And then they had a few was it Casper? I think he had 3 saves on one-on-one situations in the first half. And yeah, I just thought the first half was a bit of a ugly sort of thing. Schlupp's goal, fair strike. I know we normally talk about the goals there, but we'll just lump them together in one big rant here. Was it their one? Was that Declan John free kick, was it? The ex-Hun, yeah. Never. He even looked shocked that it went in. Let's be honest. He's like, oh, it's against Celtic. I better smack it in, put it in off the crossbar. So, all things considered, it was a fair strike. You got to credit where it's due there. And then the penalty later on in the first half. Yep, definitely a pen. So, what was your thoughts on the first half, Shane, and the goals?
Similar to yourself, I thought maybe for the first 10 or so minutes we were okay. I didn't think we were setting the world on fire, but we looked all right and comfortable. And then from there, I felt like that they really got on top, and I thought that they were probably the better team in that first half. I'd absolutely give that to them, and I thought they did a good job of stopping any kind of involvement of our midfield. Our midfield, I thought, really struggled in that first 45. I thought they pressed us pretty well. I thought they were physical without being too over the top. But crucially, when they got the ball, they moved it with purpose. They played really quickly, and in particular, I really liked the guy leading the line from them, Olasanya, and I thought he was an absolute handful. And every time sort of the ball broke kindly, they were looking to get him in behind, and he was always just sort of attached to either Trusty or Scales and would just peel off them, and his pace was a real concern. And that was one of the ones that Michael had to say, come out and make that one-on-one save. So overall, for that first half, I genuinely thought they were the better team, and we just really couldn't create anything. Schlupp's goal was fantastic. Again, probably one of the better build-ups from us in that first half, and it was a good strike. Maybe the keeper could have done better, but it's a pretty cracking strike in all fairness to him. And it sort of came at a little bit of a lull for them. There was that injury to Trusty that obviously then brought Scales on, and then we had a little bit of momentum after that, but at no point after the Schlupp goal did it look like we had control of the game. All of a sudden, they kept coming at us, and Scales gives away the free kick. It's a decent goal from Declan John. I agree with you. He was a little bit surprised, so was I. But credit where it's due. It's a decent finish. And they would have expected to go in at halftime on parity, but the penalty was absolutely there. And credit to Maeda for not falling over. I think there was a little bit of a hush or a surprise around the ground that was actually given as a pen purely because he kept his feet. But the ref, to his credit, gave it straight away. And I like to see players actually keep their feet where they can and try and actually continue on with the play instead of throwing themselves to the ground theatrically. But clear enough pen and a lovely finish from Engels again.
Yeah, 100%. The only other thing I missed out on my spiel was about Trusty going off hurt. But the thing, I have to mention it. What's with the headband, Scales? Like, I know we've been calling you the Ginger Baresi and, all this sort of stuff. And he's got the Maldini headband now. It's like, come on, man, just go get a haircut. Seriously.
You got to suffer for fashion sometimes, and look, if I could grow my hair out to that length, I would genuinely wear a headband similar to that if I was playing football.
You know what it's giving me the vibes of? Next thing I know, we're going to see. You remember back in the day, you had like Brett Emerton and Pirlo, and then they wore these little thin elastic bands along here, and it went along their hairline and then down and held it behind their ears and everything. Next thing I know, we're going to start seeing that creep back into the game.
In a previous life, when I was a much younger version of myself, I did actually grow my hair out to that length, and I used to do very similar, but I didn't know what to use, so I just used and I'm embarrassed to say, I used to use an old shoestring. That's it.
Good on you. Nothing wrong with that.
That was when I was back into wrestling big time and used to grow my hair out a little bit and try and replicate it like the Hardy Boys.
There you go. So, talking about that, Smell the Guy saying Scales is unfortunately turning into Mark McNally from the 90s. So I'm just going to get some comments here. Let us know your best Yang puns as well in the comments. I want to bring them all up at the end. So fill it up. We gotta love that. But yeah, I'm just scrolling through here because there was a few other ones. Like I'll bring up some already there. So we've got Smell the Glove, the Big Yang Theory.
I quite like that.
Pete McGee is saying Yangtastic.
Yep. Sure was.
And then we just keep scrolling along here. I'll just bring up another comment here. Gaddafi's Semtex was saying Engels and Rio were better when McGregor went off. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but yeah, I'll pick that comment up now while I see it. Yeah, and then we've got Maddie saying Schluppy. Craigie White. I had a good laugh at this. Gogic, the Bond baddie. Got 100%. There's certain things in life that are guaranteed, right? And when you're playing against Gogic, in your life you're gonna have birth, death, taxes, Gogic getting a yellow card against you. They're pretty much in that sort of run, right?
He was lucky not to get sent.
Yeah. Yeah, so there we go. John Clements. Young was born on the 25th of May, destined to play for Celtic, who will now be known as Lisbon. Scales a ginger with a hairband is just not right. Matty's saying it's one of my labourers has it, having a yang bang. That's a class one. Maestro, it's yang time. I thought, Gangster's Paradise, Youngster's Paradise, everyone's saying, so I put the whole name of that for the pod, like living in a Youngster's Paradise.
And obviously Coolio is a big Celtic fan as well, so that's your link there too.
Yep. This one here, it's the Wu Yang clan. Brilliant. I'm loving it. Some good stuff going on here, so keep it up. More of them. But yeah, so second half, Shane, I thought we played a lot better in the second half compared to the first half. Yeah, some of the finishing, like as the comments said, Calmac coming off, getting a breather. You bring Kun off, getting a breather. Make a few changes. Yang could have had a hat trick, but for the offside, which was the correct call, no problem with that. But his headers are great. The funny thing is, Schlupp scored and had an assist. Yang came off the bench, 2 goals and an assist. So, and to see players like Rio and Engels dropping into that 6 role, basically freeing up McCowan and Rio, just saying, go out there and just play box to box, do your thing, I've got this. And it was great to see, like, we've been talking about Arnie Engels and that his natural position is a 6, and seeing him in the second half in that role, Shane, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, really liked it. And I actually thought he was one of our better players. As much as the midfield struggled, I thought he was one of our better players in the first half. But when he moved into that 6 role, I thought he was fantastic. And what I was loving is the fact that he was a presence. And all of a sudden, it felt like that direct play that they had to try and get the likes of Olasanya involved and Mandrin, it wasn't there all of a sudden. And I think that was his presence. But then he was getting in and doing the hard yards. They did have a break on at one stage. And I can't remember who the St Mirren player was, but they had a bit of a break on him. And he was able to very quickly chase them down and win the ball. And he's got a good turn of pace as well. So not only can he get on the ball and pass it, and he's got a great pass, and I'm really impressed with how he is, but he gets in and does the physical stuff as well. He is kind of like, I see him a little bit like Matt O'Reilly, but who can actually play the 6. We know Matt filled in the 6 role, and he did an admirable job, though it's not his natural position. I see a lot of similarities between him and Engels, but particularly Engels is much more proficient in that 6 role, and was really impressed with him playing there. And it gave us a whole different dynamic with McCowan and Hatate playing up the park a bit more in that midfield. There was a lot better turn of pace when we got on the ball. Our pace of play, in particular, our passing was much more crisper. It was a big game changer. That whole triple sub was where the game actually changed. Up until that point, I thought we really struggled, and then that's where the game shifted.
So the thing with Engels, right, and you touched on it there, Shane, is he doesn't just when he went into the 6, he didn't just he kept doing the same work he was attacking wise, like getting forward, linking up play, sort of thing. But defensively, you know how when Bruni played the 6, it was either he'd intercept or he'd clatter someone. And Kelmack's a completely different sort of player in the 6 in that he's more an organiser. I see him like, when Pirlo dropped back into the 6 and he just started telling guys, just get the ball and just pinging long balls here, there and everywhere and just distributing and dropping in between centre-backs. That's the role Kelmack plays. And you see Engels jump in there. And he's a different sort of 6 again, because for him, he's an interceptor. He's got the athleticism that he looks like he's out of position. 2 or 3 hard steps, he's closed down the gap and he's got the angle he needs, and they try to pass it and he's cutting it off, and then he's turning defense into attack, bang, straight away. Get it, next pass, and off we go. And it speeds up our attacking play going forward. So, yeah, I love seeing it. I want to see more of that midfield that we had there. That was great. I want to see more of that over the season. Like we're not far off stitching the league right up. Let's be honest. So once that happens, I want to see more of it.
And I think for me, it doesn't necessarily mean that sees Calmac either sitting on the bench or having less game time. For me, that just frees up Calmac to sort of move into that more of an 8 role that I think you and I and countless others have been looking at for quite a few seasons now. So I definitely want to see more of it, and I think we will. He's physically imposing as well, just to get to the athleticism, but he's also imposing. Calmac, to use that sort of American turn of phrase, is a little bit like a quarterback. When he gets on the ball, the ball gets played out to him, right? Calmac turns and goes, right, who am I distributing it to? He still works hard, but I don't think of him in that 6 role like an interceptor or someone that constantly wins the ball back or gets stuck in. I see him more as that almost not really a deep lying playmaker, similar to Pirlo, but not having that same range of playmaker role, but just that fulcrum. Whereas Engels, there's much more of that physical imposingness of being a 6, which is, traditionally screening your back 4. But as you said, he can turn defense into attack with a pass, just like that.
So with the one for the Aussies out there tuning in, Engels in the 6 is basically your typical free man in defence / centre half back in AFL. Just floating along, cutting things off and launching the team into attack. In gridiron talk, he would be probably your safety defensively. I don't know if you can get that or not, but those are Will. So yeah, I like him in that role. I want to see more of it. Yeah, Calmac can play the 8 because he did all his heavy running when he was playing 2 6s alongside Bruni and did all Bruni's running for him. So now let someone else do his running. Let him play the 8 and just have some fun. Get out there. He's good in that sort of role. So yeah, overall, Shane, what was your thoughts on the second half goals?
So we started really poorly. I said that they would have probably felt aggrieved to not go in at halftime on parity, really, even arguably actually in front, but at the very least going in on level terms. And very quickly after halftime, they were level. Good build up down the right. Ball comes in, AJ heads it away. He heads it to the top of the box, so not away necessarily. And Phillips absolutely scuffs that. Like, he has smashed that into the ground. That's a half volley in any like that was just like a bump ball in cricket, for a cricket analogy. Like, he has absolutely dived that into the ground, and yet he's just managed to hit it so poorly that it has bounced up and just gone over Casper. And despite Casper's almost superhuman effort to try and save that, he just couldn't reach it. Points to the celebration, though. I did love the fact he went and kissed the camera. My favourite part was the awkwardness in the Celtic TV commentary box when that came up, and Peter Grant chiming in to break the silence, going, "I hope he's kissing you and not me." So shout out, Peter. That was quite funny.
I would have been like, at least buy me dinner first.
Very awkward moment in the Celtic TV box. But so at that point, it was really the changes, and I sort of mentioned this before. It was the triple sub that made all the difference, really. And all of a sudden, you had Hatate and McCowan on, and the pace of play picked up. We were getting the ball in behind for the first time in probably the whole game. It felt like we were actually getting their defenders to turn and run towards their goal, and they had to adjust. They had to sit a little bit deeper. And the next goal that came in, obviously the first Yang header. What I really loved about it, it's a good ball in from Hatate. It's a really good run from Yang as well. Just times his run perfectly. Great finish. But there's just a little run from Jota in between, just a slight run that just takes a couple of the defenders a little bit away, and it gives Hatate a much clearer lane to cross the ball in. And it's just that quality of play of Jota to get involved, but no, hang on, I can still get involved here and make a huge difference. And without that run, that's a much harder ball for Rio to play. So absolute credit where it's due for that.
Good football intelligence there.
Absolutely. And then obviously the fourth goal, we had the Yang offside in between, which was a real pity. He really could have finished with a hat trick, but he gets involved for the fourth goal. So, and credit to St Mirren at this point. They're still playing. They're still trying to get that equaliser. They've pushed numbers up. The game's pretty stretched. I did say to you before the show, and this was with my green and white glasses well and truly off, this was actually a good game to watch. A really good, enjoyable game of football to watch between two teams that were going for it. And I reckon if you're a neutral, you would have thoroughly enjoyed the contest. But Yang gets the ball, plays it first time around the corner to Maeda, who's in behind. It's a tremendous ball. They said it on the Celtic TV coverage. It's the ball played by a player who's in a lot of confidence. He's obviously feeling it after the goal. Sure, the second one's ruled out, but it's a cracking finish. And then just to play that ball, it's inch perfect, weighted perfectly for Maeda, and he finishes obviously past the keeper. And then, reward for effort. Yang again finishes with a brace to go with that assist. And what I really loved about his goal, obviously it's a great ball in from Schlupp, but again, to comment on Yang, and we're bigging him up, and I'm sure we'll talk about him a bit more in a second, but his movement in that goal is really good. It's really good movement. He's with the defender. He knows where Schlupp's actually going to put the ball, and he just sort of backs off ever so slightly to give himself that separation from the defender. He doesn't run with the defender. He doesn't make just that slight bit of separation. That's all he needs, and it's a bullet header. So in the end, 5-2 win. Definitely on the balance of probably from the 65th minute onwards, we deserved it. But credit to Brendan as well. Those changes changed the game. Without those, I think we're probably getting a 3-2 or maybe finishing on parity.
It's Maestro 95 saying the subs added energy.
Yep.
So, yeah, it was definitely subs turned the game there for us. But, yeah, let's go through a few comments and then we'll crack on a little bit. So, Pete McGee is saying, I hate people slagging off players, but I have to say the contrast between Greg Taylor and Schlupp and Trusty and Scales was stark for me.
Yep.
Andrew Galea, Rio better when Kelmack went off.
Yep.
Craigie White, concerned Kun seems to be disappearing up his own ass just now.
I want to comment on that really quickly. I feel like he's definitely hasn't had anywhere near the cutting edge he has for a little while now. And definitely the past couple of weeks, it feels like he's sort of getting on the ball, cutting inside. And what it feels like to me is a lot of opposition teams have scouted him really well and know what he's going to do. And I thought he was getting on the ball, but he was very ineffective against St Mirren. I thought, even though he finished with an assist in the end. And I felt the same way a few weeks ago. So, yeah, I think he just needs to work on his craft a little bit.
I think you're half right, Shane, in that, yeah, he's gone off it a bit, and teams have scouted him. So I think that's half of it. I think the other half of it is, look at it this way. When it was Kyogo through the middle, Maeda on one wing, Kun on the other wing, who was your tricky winger? And who was your work rate winger?
Oh, your tricky winger was Kun, and your work rate was
the ball
Maeda.
went to him. The ball went to Kun all the time for any of that flair play. Suddenly you've got, Jota on the other wing, who's a flair player as well. Now it's more balanced, and so the ball's not coming to Kun as much. Like there was a patch against Bayern Munich away where the ball didn't even go to Kun for like a 5-6 minute burst on the right because it kept going left to Jota. So because he had their right back turning circles. So now you've got that second tricky winger on the other side. I think it's a combination of teams have scouted Kun, so he's not getting as many chances to do his thing. And when he does it, the defenders, they kind of know what he's going to do because he's been scouted so much. So you put those two together, and I think that's what's getting us the situation we're in now. Plus, has he ever played this many games in a season before? Probably not. So that's probably why he's blowing out his arsehole.
And as you said, you were surprised that he didn't get a rest either. So you're right. Maybe it's just a bit of fatigue creeping in as well.
Yeah. So let's bring up some more comments. I think Scales needs to play regular games for form. So being the backup isn't good for him. Andrew Galea saying McCowan is more attacking option of 8 than Engels, but him and Rio started pulling them apart. And then Smell the Goal saying Engels played 6 at Augsburg. Maestro saying Yang and McCowan worked well down the right side. Hatade middle. Schlupp and Jota on the left. Then made his touch.
I thought, just to jump in while you find your next comment, I thought the comment about Scales and Trusty was interesting. I don't think Scales had a great game, but I thought in this game Trusty had initially struggled as well against Olasanya. So Scales didn't necessarily improve, but I don't think he was far off what Trusty had shown in that first 27 minutes.
Pete McGee saying another Engels man of the match performance for me. The boy's definitely worth his fee and then some. Well, we usually wrap up the game thing with our man of the match, so I'll agree with you. Engels was my man of the match because of a 90-minute performance.
Oh
Did I thieve it from you?
no, it's just
Yeah.
it's Yangster's paradise.
I said for a 90-minute performance, impact reason, it was Yang.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'm still leaning on Yang.
That's all right. You can have Yang. You're the number 2 member of the Yang gang on this podcast behind Dan. We all know it.
It's in a 2-horse race. I'm the length of the Flemington Straight behind Dan, that's for sure. But it's definitely a Yang gang.
Yeah. So Andrew's saying 6 is Engels' natural position. What do we got here? There you go. Maestro saying Cal could move up 1, then give Engels a deeper role. That's what we need to do. Pete McGee saying the same thing here. Engels at 6, Kelmack pushing up is a better fit. There you go, talking about their second goal. Shane, it was a shank.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it. You summed it up perfectly in one word than I did in about 12.
So Pete McGee is saying elephant in the room. Was AJ's tackle a pen? I genuinely couldn't tell from TV coverage if he touched the ball or not. That was actually one of the 3 remaining things from the game I wanted to touch on, Shane. So for me, okay, this was the exact same tackle that went against us against Bayern Munich, where Engels got clattered, right? So in that situation, the ruling is if you come through and you win the ball and then take the man's foot like that, if it's dangerous and reckless, you can get a card and it's a penalty. If you win the ball and then happen to slide through completing your tackle, it's play on. That's how it's supposed to be called. So in this situation, against Bayern Munich, did I think we should have got a penalty? Absolutely. In this situation here, should St Mirren have got a tackle? I don't want to be that. They probably should have. They should have got a pen. Let's be honest. But was it but in both situations, letter of the law, were there either of them penalties? No. So that's how I feel on it.
I saw it the same way, and the Bayern comparison is exactly what I drew upon when I was looking at it. I'm pretty sure. I think there was some skepticism and discussion around whether AJ actually got any contact on the ball or not, and I'm pretty convinced he did. Although I would say if you're arguing semantics, I would say that the one in Bayern, he gets a bit more of the ball than AJ does on the one on the weekend. But still, he gets touch on the ball and then he follows through. So I think if you're going to, on precedence of what we've just seen, it's probably not a penalty. Now, should it be a penalty in general? I think he was lucky it didn't go to VAR. I was actually, colour me, surprised a little bit that he didn't go to VAR. I was really half expecting a sort of 10-minute delay while they forensically analysed that and tried to zoom in on whether his studs hit the ball or not. But no, look, I think they can feel every right to feel aggrieved. But just like we felt a little bit aggrieved against Bayern. So, yeah, I see it pretty much exactly the same way you do.
Pete McGee saying it's a pen if they didn't touch the ball, and I genuinely couldn't tell.
There's one angle where it looked really noticeable, and then there was another where it looked a bit like, I think he's missed it. But there was definitely an angle I watched. I was like, oh no, he's definitely nicked that for sure. And that was very similar to the Bayern situation.
The thing with the Bayern one, Shane, I'm just going to go to that again. Okay, in both of them, you can see the ball changes direction of the spin. So something has to have touched it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm saying both are the same. Now, the Bayern one, Engels got cluttered a lot worse afterwards in that one than this bloke did, in my opinion.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, neither were giving us penalties. As consistency, whether it's Europe and in Scottish football, we never get that consistency across them. It's like Rangers concede penalties in Europe, but they went almost a year and a half without a penalty in the league. So we never see that sort of consistency across the two. We finally got it, so it's open for debate. Good fun.
Absolutely.
Now, the only other thing I really wanted to talk about from this game was certain comments. How good is Yang? Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is I love Brendan in the press after the game. Basically, he's saying that the reason he's playing well is because his missus is in town. So it looks like Yang just needed some loving to play his best, in my opinion. Um, but there's this article, right? And I was reading it, and some of the comments here, like it's Brendan saying she can stay, and he's just pissed himself laughing. But here, so it goes, well, his girlfriend is here at the moment, so he's in a great feeling. What's he saying? He just he's been here for a little while, and I just said to our interpreter to try and make sure she can stay in the country. Stuff like that. I'm like, okay, he's pretty much put it all down, and there it is, waiting for the first comment here. Maestro, give her a contract. But then further on, it's funnier because you've got Yang's comment. My girlfriend is here, but she didn't come to the game because she can't drive. I think she watched on television. I'm happy she's here. I feel like I'm doing much better since she came, and I'm very thankful. When I'm at home, she cooks and helps me. Maybe on my way home, I will buy some flowers for her.
Oh, yes, do it.
What a class act. Give her all the flowers she wants, Yang. Give her all the flowers that she wants because, you're playing well. You got a smile on your face. And yeah, he was able to jump high for those headers for an obvious reason.
He did it say how long his girlfriend's been in Scotland for?
Said a couple of weeks.
It ties in
Makes
with
little
the
sense.
improvement of performance.
There you go. Andrew Blair. She's lightened his load. Heavy vibes. All he needed was a shag. It's like how I keep saying about Bolingoli during the pandemic. He only skipped the country because he was horny. Like, that was his only crime.
This has sent the comments section wild. This
Had
stuff.
to. So I have to bring this up. Your mate Vinny here is saying, I am the yin, Shane is the yang, right? But then later on, Vinny is saying, is Yang's missus name Ying? So is that Vinny saying that he's your Mrs. Shane? What are
Sure,
you
why
doing,
not?
Vinny? What are you doing, Vinny? Come on, I know there's some man love here, but come on.
I thought we were best mates, but clearly he sees us as more than that. So we need to work on being on the same page. But no, shout out to you, Vinny. Thanks for tuning in, and always a pleasure.
Vinny just wants to cuddle Shane,
Next victory game, it's happening, mate. Even if we don't score.
There you go. So, yeah, I just had to bring up those comments about the whole Yang thing because it was just Brendan's face. He made that comment and then he's got the cheekiest grin and he's just like having a laugh, like, yeah, I did that. I've stitched him up here. It's just brilliant.
He's in a
But yeah,
good space. He's in a really good space, and he's playing well. And he is playing like a player that's with playing with confidence. And we're seeing quality from him, and he's impacting games. And whilst what he did on the weekend was fantastic, it's been a couple of weeks now where he's come on and he's looked like a really important sub, someone that is actually going to have an impact. You think back to that game against Bayern where he gets the flick on for Maeda to score. All of a sudden, that changes the whole complexion of that Champions League tie. Been really impressed with him, and credit to Brendan too for persisting with him. Brendan hasn't, in my opinion, had to. He's had some other options that he could have used, but he's continually looked at Yang and said, "Look, I think we can. I think we've got a player here, and we're definitely seeing we're definitely seeing the confidence grow with him week in, week out, and all credit to him too for persisting."
the thing is, remember there was a game, I think it was early this season or last season, I can't remember when it was, where Yang came on in the first half. He gave the ball away 5 times. And people were just ripping him. I don't want to see him in a Celtic top again, blah, blah. I've given Yang a hard time. I'll openly admit it. So I'm loving seeing this development from him. We know Brendan's good at developing players. So it's just great to see him out there doing his thing. And So McLaughlin's saying I hear Yang's been doing a lot of extra training with Jota as well. Well, that's going to help him a bit. It's one of the most skillful players we've got. And then he's also said the squad love Yang. They were all over him when he scored. Pete McGee saying, yep, they plainly love him. As Andrew Galea is saying here, Yang is obviously working hard on his game. And if
Hmm.
he's going to work as hard as he is, then I'm all for it. Like, go you good thing. Do what you got to do. Maestro is saying he's overcame his fear and is playing with freedom.
Freedom.
Mhm. And Heavy Vibes, we expect too much too soon. Yeah, exactly. Look what we did this time last year with Kun and the player he's become this season. So yeah, I'm all for it. Like, well done. Keep working hard and yeah, long may it continue.
Oh, yep. Youngster's paradise.
Yep. So Shane, we have four more things to talk about. This is gonna be fun. Oh, there we go. Shangalang. His missus is in town. Let's change the words around to bangalang, bangayang.
Jeez.
Had to. And then Maestro saying when a player gets confidence, it's a big part of football. Yep. So cracking along here, it's been commented on earlier. The Huns dropped more points, losing 2-1 to Motherwell. We're 16 points ahead. Now I mentioned it. We're not far off winning the league, right? Do some basic maths, right? What is there, like 9 games left or something like that?
That's too strong a basic maths for me, mate. I'll just say yes and hope I'm right.
Okay. 9 or 10 games left, so 30 points to play for. We're 16 ahead. But by the time we get through, we get the game this weekend. What's that? A cup game, isn't it?
That's a cup game against Hibs.
So let's ignore that. The next league game we've got is the derby. Win that, how far ahead are we?
19.
When the split happens, how many games are there? 5. 15 points. So we
Thank you.
beat them in the next derby, and then we just go win for win with them until the split happens. Comp's won.
Wow. The ultimate insult, winning the title before the split.
Yep. And doing it, getting the margin big enough, like at the moment it's big enough. It's 16 now, right? But we still have to play them before the split. So that's why do that at Paradise. Absolutely just like rub it in. It'll be great. So I just wanted to say that. And the reason I'm bringing that up about winning the next derby is because there's actually going to be away fans at the Glasgow derby, which means we can rub it in and celebrate in front of their fans. The 4% of the stadium allocation, the stadium capacity is the away allocation. So they'll get about 2,400 seats for Parkhead, and we'll get 2,000 for the game after the split, right? So my take on this is since this whole situation was the Huns' fault in the first place, going back to 2018 where they cut our allocation because they got sick of us partying in their stadium, and then cutting it more, and then 2 years of no away fans because they're idiots and all this sort of stuff. It's great to see them putting their big boy pants on and actually putting Scottish football first for once instead of their ego. Who am I joking? They're idiots. I just think, but it does make for a better game on TV though for us over here when you've got two lots of fans chanting at each other. You get to see all these, you know, moon howlers and knuckle draggers and stuff like standing there and you go, okay, thank God I'm not that.
So I wasn't across the news. Who actually approved this to sort of come into effect straight away? Did they have to sign something off themselves, or did the Scottish FA just jump in and say, "Right now we're making it happen"?
It was supposed to be happening all season, but because the first time around, we did the works on our stadium so that they locked the net and everything and they could come in. So we've been ready to go all season. But because they were playing at Hampton doing the work at Ibrox, our club was like, well, we're not going to give you tickets to that, but then we don't get any because we can't guarantee you've done the works required to have away fans there. So they finally have got it all set up, ready to go. It's all been signed off by probably Scots Police, Council, the Scottish League, all that stuff, and it's finally happening. So it's supposed to be happening all season, but yeah, about bloody
It's,
time.
it's just I just find it funny and really ironic that the first time that they're going to actually have away fans in Celtic Park for so long is going to be a game that sees us go 19 points clear in the league and effectively wrap it up.
Yeah, brilliant, isn't it? So, with that in mind, Shane, do you think that the 2,400 odd fans in the stadium are going to try to trash paradise and drink all our lavies dry at the next derby match? Yes, that's actually on my run sheet, that question, by the way.
Look, I think we've. I'll comment generally on the situation of having the away fans back in first. I think it is good. I think it's something that we've been pretty transparent on this pod for a little while. Is that we do want away fans in these Glasgow derbies. We do want it. Does add to the atmosphere. There is. It's hard to put a finger on it, but it is somewhat slightly removed to what it was previously with the fact that there's no away fans. That being said, yes, I'd be really worried, particularly if the result early on is going exactly how I think it will, which is will be 2 or 3 up, probably at halftime. Yeah, I'd expect a pretty fierce reaction from the away section, which would be really disappointing. But that's just how I see it panning out, unfortunately.
The old staunchness.
Exactly.
So, Andrew Galea is saying it's over now, mate. Like, we've already got it won. And then McLaughlin's saying we can win it within 2 games if things go our way. If we beat them at Celtic Park and then beat Hearts, Rangers will need to beat Dundee at Dens Park. Maestro saying win the next 2 games and then it's done. Cup than them. Pete McGee saying rumours of Gerard coming back. Yes, please make it so. Real question, here it is. Does Barry Ferguson wear a toupee? Looks like a Lego haircut. Like he gets it cut, just clicks it on.
He seemed to have it styled a little bit differently on the weekend, which didn't help them at all with their performance by any stretch. But yeah, there's been a couple of shots for him where I'm just, I've just sort of looked and I just thought, not sure about that.
So McLaughlin's saying if we'd won at Ibrox, we could have clinched the title versus them. Like next week is what he means. So yeah, it's all there. It's all happening. So I'm going to keep that one, Shane, that we're talking about. The question, we'll keep that one in our back pocket for a later date. That'll be a good one to get the comments going. But I want to talk about the Celtic releasing the new Adidas Originals gear. So, and the reason I wanted to do that, right, is I love that we've got Adidas as our club sponsor, right? But some of the things they do, I think it's just milking our fans dry, basically. They're taking the piss. And I know we've got to do it. But so this Adidas Original Celtic FC Irish Origins, I don't get what's Irish about it. Honestly, like you look at it and you've got like looks like a Love Street sort of top. I thought it was white at first, but it looks like a light green with the edging, the trefoil in the middle or whatever, and our logo. Looks like the old Adidas t-shirts we had back in the 90s. It doesn't actually look like a football top. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. I don't really like that. Then you've got this bomber jacket. Now, okay, in Australian prices, the Origins jersey is 159 Australian dollars. Piss take. You've got a bomber jacket. I like the look of that. But at 229 Australian dollars, no thanks. And then you got grey tracksuit pants with like some drawing and stuff on them for 123 Australian dollars, right? Dan in our group chat saying, are those grey trackies going to make his dick look bigger? So I went there. He'll love it. I don't know what's a bigger piss take, that comment, Dan, or the fact that of the prices on it. So I had to throw you under the bus.
I got to be careful. I've either got to be careful what I say in the group chat, or I have to listen to all the episodes now because now I'm a little bit nervous.
I just had to wind him up. Yeah. What's your thoughts, Shane? I know you're big on all that sort of stuff they release.
Yeah, I am big on it. And when I saw the demo for it, like that little sort of snippet they released the other day, I was actually quite excited. And then obviously got to see sort of a someone had it already. Basically, like there was it was floating around online a little bit, and it was shared, and I was a little bit underwhelmed. And unfortunately, I still remain a little bit underwhelmed. Look, I don't see it as a kit. I think you summed it up perfectly. This looks more like an Adidas t-shirt. This more looks more like something you just chuck on and go out for the day. It's not. It doesn't remind me of a football kit, really. I think it's got some nice touches to it. So I like the badge, and I like the fact that it sort of alternates between a four leaf clover and a shamrock. Depending which way you look at it. Um, no.
There's a comment from Vinny here saying, "Do these new Adidas range make Shane get any taller?" They do, Vinny, because his wallet's not as heavy, holding him down with all his cash on it.
Well, if they did like Celtic based platform shoes, maybe. But it's there's a go. There's an idea. Look, it's got some nice touches, but overall, it's still for me right now where I look at it, it's a little bit underwhelming. It doesn't look like a football kit or strip. And definitely the price point is sort of the extra slap there. $160 Australian for that is ridiculous. Really, that's ridiculous. And I really like, similar to yourself, I like the bomber jacket. I think that looks really snappy, and I like the design on the back as well. But again, $230. When you think about it, though, the bomber jacket for $230 compared to the kit for $160, you're effectively paying $60 more for a bomber jacket. That not only is the bomber jacket expensive, it just serves to highlight how out of price the actual kit is. So, and I'm not a track pants guy, so I'm not even going to comment on those.
All I'm going to say, Shane, is if the price there, say if the bomber jacket was around the 150 Australian mark, right, I'd buy it without hesitation. But to be that high, it's like, it's a price point. I can't figure it out. But then having a look here, you've got McLaughlin saying the Irish Rangers in March is a piss take. And then Simon from Denny is saying, I like the t-shirt, not 90 quid like though. 100%. It's exactly how I'm feeling about it all. So, yeah, it's disappointing. Like the last couple of these Adidas Irish releases have actually been good. I think this year's one of the three items. There's only one decent thing there. So, yeah,
Yeah, and
disappointing.
I think for me, yeah, the first one in particular, and I came to love the second one last season as well. The green with the pinstripe. I ended up getting that. But even then, looking at that kit, I think was like $100, under $100 Australian when it came out, when it was first released. This is almost $60 on top of that. And yeah, this is one where I look at it and go, yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed with it. And what I really want them to actually do, if they can, I don't know the ins and outs of this, right? So I'm talking without knowing the answer, but I really want one of these kits to actually be used in a match as well. That's when I got excited about the first one all those seasons ago, the real dark green with the big clover crest on it, which was too big, but it's a great kit. We all got really excited because you got to actually get it with name and numbers, and I thought they were going to actually wear it in a match. They haven't worn any of these since, and I'd actually like to see them go down the path of wearing one of these for a special occasion.
Problem is they got to register 3 kits for the season. So these come out in
Mm.
March when the season's almost over, so they can't. So unless they're going to release them now and then say, okay, this kit that we're releasing now is going to be our third kit next season, so it might get worn once or twice during the year. You could kind of justify it that way.
Hmm.
But other than that, I just think it's silly. I just think it's just trying to bleed the fans dry a little bit and play to the Irish heritage of the club and be like, oh, St Paddy's Day's coming up. Buy this. Show off your Irish heritage and your love of Celtic. So
And it's also the smallest range release so far. If you remember the first couple, you had a few other items as well. For the first one that was released a few years ago, you had the scarf as well, and I think a beanie and a few other things. Last season, you had the kit and the polo and the
the
zip up
hoodie.
top. Yeah, exactly. And you had a big jacket as well. With this one, you've just got the three items so far, which is the kit, the bomber jacket, and the trackies. So not only is it high price and underwhelming in a couple of parts, there's also not a lot of range either, which is disappointing.
So heavy vibes are saying Lawwell needs his bonus. And Pete McGee saying those tracky bottoms are hideous and they cost £70. Plus they're not pants. That's what you wear under your trousers.
I like that.
No worries. It's a uniform and their pants, mate.
They I'll give, not that I want to throw the club under the bus too much, but if you do get a chance, check out the way they describe them on the website. It's they use a lot of words to describe what I'd consider are called Celtic branded track pants. So yeah, check it out. It'd make me chuckle.
Yeah. All right, Shane, we'll wrap the pot up there. So we'll go to our final thoughts. So over to you.
I'm starting to get into Irish band Fontaine's DC. I'd been sleeping on them for a little while, but I'm starting to listen to them, and I listened to their latest album, Romance, and it's fantastic. I really really like it, and so I'm going to start working through that back catalogue, and that's a tremendous album. So if you get a chance to listen to it, please do. It is brilliant. Fontaine's DC, check them out.
My final thought is pretty simple. Go to Storm. Hail, hail.
How?